Okay, we're here with Leah LaPlaca, VP of ESPN Growth Initiatives. I kind of started this with other people. Tell us, how did you get to ESPN? You've been here 14 years, as we talked.
Yeah.
What was the process as far as getting to ESPN?
Yeah, so have always had sports interests. I probably have a unique background getting to ESPN. I think I'm probably the only former chimpanzee researcher that works at ESPN. I have a master's in anthropology and was sort of in a Jane Goodall track in a PhD program at University of Texas, and took a pretty big right turn and went to business school at Wharton, got my MBA, and was focused at that point on sports and media. And through some serious networking with Len DeLuca, who had been at CBS Sports and had worked there with a classmate of mine, just had that connection in with ESPN and met some other people, and ultimately that turned into a position in the programming department.
So what kind of experiences have you had at ESPN in your career here?
Yeah, sure. So I worked in the programming department for the first 10 years that I was here, managing golf programming as well as some other things. So golf came on in the beginning, and that was my something that I had consistently throughout the 10 years. But I oversaw our NBA programming, our NFL programming when we got Monday Night Football, and renewed that deal, and did the FIFA World Cup deal with John Skipper back maybe 6 years into my tenure. Managed our content rights management group as well there, that oversaw a lot of our footage rights here at ESPN, and then I switched into our affiliate sales and marketing team in 2013 and worked on digital distribution deals, so looking at short form content and how we were distributing that out to other external partners. About a year and a half there, and then went into our talent office here in production and did talent deals for about a year and a half. So sort of the thread through that was negotiation, contract management, relationship management, and then just a couple months ago switched into ESPNW, which is our initiative for women, for female.
So what is your job with what are you trying to do with ESPNW?
Yeah, so ESPNW's been around since 2010. Started with a summit, then moved into a blog, and ultimately our website. And we're focused on serving female sports fans in a way that maybe they aren't being served with the core of ESPN. So looking at growth initiatives, how do we grow that business? How do we make sure that ESPN is a stronger brand with women? We have 37 million women that come to ESPN every week across all of our different platforms. But the way that they experience sports is a little bit different from a broad scale perspective than it may be for men. So men stereotypically may be more interested in stats and analytics and the X's and O's, whereas women, again, painting with a very broad brush, it's more about the storytelling and the community around sports. And so ESPNW is a way where they can experience sports a little bit more authentically maybe than they might on the core ESPN platforms.
And so you said you've been here for a long time, and a sports fan for a long time. When you heard that they were going to be doing a site called ESPNW, did you think to yourself, great idea, or what took so long? You know, because as you said, 37, it's a huge audience. I mean, what was your reaction when you first heard about this?
Yeah, I thought it made a lot of sense. I mean, I know you think you'll talk to Lauren Gentile a little bit as well. The scope of ESPNW and how it's focused has evolved over time. And so it's been women's sports and lifestyle. And again, as I spoke about before, the way women consume sports is a bit different. Now, me, as someone who's worked at ESPN for a long time, I'm a super consumer of ESPN. I see everything. But a lot of the women that are coming, that 37 million that I talked about on a weekly basis, they may be coming for events, they may be coming for scores, they may not be watching as much content as their male counterparts are, and so they may not be giving us enough credit for some of the great storytelling that we do outside of games and studio programming and the like. And so having a place where we can amplify some of that content for them made a ton of sense, as well as being able to highlight female sports, female leagues and women athletes, and tell their stories in a more organic way.
What has the ESPNW learned in the time that it launched to now, as far as in guiding its evolution as a site?
Yeah, I mean, I think one of the things that's been really interesting to see over the progression of time is just how an athletic, sports-minded lifestyle has evolved as well. So you see more brands like Lululemon and Athleta and Sweaty Betty and Under Armour and Nike also really focusing on the female athlete, and that being a bigger marketplace as well. So our content on ESPNW has also evolved, so we're making sure that we're showcasing that lifestyle and gear and training and looking at what athletes eat and evolving some of that content as well. That really probably wouldn't seem authentic to ESPN.com, but makes sense when you're looking at a female sports fan and how she looks at her life in a more athletic, sports-minded way.
Mm-hmm. And you talked about the aspect of growth. I mean, it's you're supposed to grow this site. What is being done as far as trying to grow this site?
Yeah, so there's a couple things. I mean, one of the things we're making sure that people understand just from a brand awareness perspective what ESPNW is. Obviously, women's sports and showcasing female athletes are a big part of what we do, but it's not the only thing. We're telling stories about the NBA Finals and men's sports as well as hitting into the lifestyle and fitness and cultural aspects of sports. So there's that brand awareness piece. The other piece is how can we drive additional traffic to ESPNW.com. So working with partners either across the Walt Disney Company or external third-party partners, other content creators, other distribution platforms, potentially in some cases advertisers, to amplify our content and drive traffic to ESPNW.com.
And so what's been what have you seen? What's working right now for as far as that?
Yeah, so we're really in the early stages of the partnership piece. I've been on the business almost 3 months now, so we're still kind of vetting out what makes the most sense. We haven't so far to date had that one marquee external partnership that makes a ton of sense. But we're having conversations, like I said, with our counterparts across the Walt Disney Company to see where we may have some organic fits there to cross promote and create some content that may make sense and drive traffic for ESPNW.
From a branding perspective, how important is it for ESPN to be in this space, to be have a site that is geared towards women?
Yeah, well, I think it's a huge piece. There's a huge number of female sports fans out there in the U.S. and certainly globally as well. We've launched an ESPNW site in Brazil with our outlets down there. And so if we're serving sports fans, and our mission is really to serve sports fans, we have to make sure that we're serving all sports fans and recognizing that sports fans consume sports in a different way depending on their gender or their race. We have the Undefeated that focuses on the intersection of race and culture in sports. W is a little bit similar in terms of how do you focus on the intersection of gender in sports and culture, as well as serving the full picture of female sports fans. So as we look to grow, how can we make sure that the 37 million women that are coming to ESPN on a weekly basis anyway, that they're staying with us longer, they're coming back more frequently because they're finding content that's about sports and the sports landscape that really resonates with them.
And you talked about how it's different. There's more premium on storytelling. How does that work for ESPNW? Yeah,
well, I mean, it's really about having our writers going out there and identifying those stories, going deeper and telling a more rich picture of the certainly female athletes, but also looking at male sports and saying, well, gee, is there a story that hasn't been told from either a female lens or a way that would resonate with women? One of the ways where ESPNW has really made a mark over the last couple of years is with domestic violence in sports. We have a large number of our writers that have had significant presence, not just on W.com, but certainly on SportsCenter and other ESPN television shows, talking about domestic violence and other social issues in sports from a female lens in a way that couldn't have been told before.
And I'm wondering if, as we conclude, if having that platform of having ESPNW in place when these issues arrive gives the ESPN more authority, gives them a little more of a feeling that, hey, we've been there, done that, and the viewers see that.
Yeah, no, absolutely, because how can you speak about those issues? You're only speaking about it from one particular point of view if you're coming at it from a male sportscaster perspective or a former male athlete perspective. Inserting the female perspective in there when you have these writers that have been in the space for a long time, have been covering these topics for a long time, absolutely gives it tremendous credibility.
Great. Thanks, Leah. I appreciate it.
Thanks.